Welcome to the English Empire, the channel that helps you live better and speak better English at the same time. In every video, we take one powerful life lesson and explain it in clear, natural English, so you grow as a person and as a speaker every time you watch. Today's lesson is very powerful. It is inspirational, and it can be life-changing. Today, we are going to learn how to react to nothing and how to become unshakably confident. Because many people do not destroy their lives because of one big problem. They destroy their peace because of fast reactions, words spoken too quickly, decisions made in anger, messages sent in emotion, and actions they regret for the rest of their lives. But when you learn how to pause, when you learn how to stay calm, and when you stop giving every small thing power over you, you become stronger, you become clearer, and you become much harder to shake. Before we begin, if you enjoy learning English through powerful life lessons, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the English Empire so you never miss the next lesson. Okay, let's start today's lesson. React to nothing. Become unshakably confident. There is a particular kind of person you have probably encountered at least once in your life. Something goes wrong around them. A flight gets canceled. An insult lands. A plan collapses. And their face barely moves. They do not perform calm. They simply are calm, the way a stone is hard or water is wet. It is not that nothing affects them. It is that almost nothing controls them. And when you watched them, some part of you thought, I want that. Most people chase confidence the way they chase weight loss or wealth, through addition. Add a skill, add a credential, add a win, add a compliment, and maybe, eventually, the scale will tip, and confidence will simply arrive, fully formed, like a delivery you have been waiting for. But anyone who has actually accumulated achievements knows the uncomfortable truth. The feeling of solid, unshakable self-assurance rarely shows up on schedule. You get the promotion and still flinch at criticism. You hit the goal weight and still wince at a stranger's glance. The diploma, the bank balance, the relationship status, none of it protects you completely from the sting of someone's offhand comment, or from the small earthquake of a plan falling apart. That is because confidence built through addition is confidence built on sand. It depends on conditions staying favorable. The real foundation, the one that does not erode, comes from subtraction. More specifically, it comes from subtracting unnecessary reactions. This is the quiet, almost paradoxical secret behind people who seem unbothered by the world. They have not eliminated their feelings. They have eliminated their automatic surrender to those feelings. They have learned to react to nothing. And by doing so, they have made themselves almost impossible to shake. The hidden cost of reacting to everything. Every single day, your nervous system receives dozens of small invitations to lose control. A text message goes unanswered for 3 hours. A coworker sends an email and their tone feels colder than usual. Someone sees your photo and does not leave a like. Traffic, a sarcastic comment, a missed deadline. On their own, none of these things are truly catastrophic, But most people respond as if each one is a small fire that must be put out immediately, with urgency, with endless thought loops, and with the precious currency of attention. The problem is simple. Attention is the one resource you can never get back. Every minute spent replaying an argument in your mind, rehearsing a comeback you will never actually say, or trying to decode the hidden meaning behind a one-word text message, is a minute taken directly from your own life. And here's the strange truth about emotional reactivity. The more you react, the more reactive you become. Every overreaction trains your nervous system to treat future problems as dangerous, even when those problems are small. Little by little, you begin teaching yourself to see ordinary life as a threat. In a way, you are training yourself to be afraid of everyday life. People who seem completely unshakable have not escaped this world of daily frustrations. They live in the same world as everyone else, the same delayed replies, the same sarcastic comments, the same unexpected setbacks. But the difference lies in what happens during the first half-second after the problem appears. For most people, that half-second is where the spiral begins. The chest tightens, anxiety suddenly rises, and the mind immediately begins racing, trying to defend, trying to explain, trying to fix everything. But for the truly unshakable person, that same half-second feels very different. It is the moment where the disturbance simply stops. Not because they force themselves to suppress it, and not because they pretend it does not exist, but because they never accepted it as something that required a reaction in the first place.
Reactivity is a habit, not a personality trait. Here is the part that should feel hopeful rather than discouraging. Reactivity is learned. Nobody is born flinching at criticism or spiraling over ambiguous texts. Watch a toddler get told no. They might cry for 90 seconds and then completely forget it happened, chasing a dog across the yard with total joy. Children have enormous emotional reactions, but those reactions don't calcify into identity the way adult reactions do, because children haven't yet built the elaborate mental architecture of meaning around every event.
Somewhere between childhood and adulthood, most of us begin attaching meaning to things that never deserved it. A raised eyebrow suddenly feels like proof that people dislike us. A canceled plan feels like evidence that we are unwanted. A small mistake in an email begins to feel like a judgment of our entire ability. We do not simply experience events, we immediately begin interpreting them. And very often, the interpretation becomes far worse than the event itself. This is why becoming unshakable is not about suppressing emotion. It is not about pretending that feelings do not exist. It is about noticing the interpretation before it turns into a story. And then asking one simple question: is this story actually true? This shift in thinking changes everything. Because it means you are not trying to become a completely different person. You are not trying to become colder. You are not trying to become distant. And you are not trying to become less human. Instead, you are learning to interrupt a habit that was built unconsciously over many years. And habits, unlike personality, can always be changed. The mechanics of non-reaction. So, what does it truly mean to react to nothing? To understand this, it helps to separate three things that people often mix together: the event, the feeling, and the reaction. The event is simply what happens: a comment, silence from someone you expected to hear from, an unexpected setback, and most of the time you have no control over that. The feeling is what your body experiences next: a sudden wave of heat in your face, a heavy feeling in your stomach, the tension building in your jaw. And this part is mostly automatic. Trying to force yourself not to feel anything almost never works. In fact, it usually creates even more tension. But then comes the third part, the reaction. And this is where everything changes. The reaction is what you choose to do next, the words you decide to say, the message you choose to send, the decision you make, and the story you begin telling yourself about what everything means. The entire process of becoming unshakable lives inside this third part. You cannot stop someone from making the comment. You may not even stop the irritation that rises inside you, but you have almost complete control over what happens next, especially during the 60 seconds that follow. Do you react immediately? Do you fire back? Do you stay silent and suffer inside? Do you instantly create a painful story about yourself or about the other person? Or do you simply let the wave pass through you and choose carefully whether anything truly deserves a response at all?
This idea is often described as creating space between stimulus and response. And while that description is useful, it does not fully capture how practical this skill really is. This is not some vague spiritual idea. It is something far more real. In many ways, it is similar to a martial art. Think about a skilled fighter. They do not tense up, they do not panic, and they do not swing wildly at every movement around them. Instead, they allow unnecessary movement to pass, and they save their energy for what truly matters. Life works in much the same way. All day long, small things move toward you. Comments, distractions, annoyances, tiny frustrations, and most of what feels threatening is not truly a threat at all. It is simply irrelevant movement. To react to nothing means learning to recognize that. It means refusing to waste your energy on things that do not deserve it, and saving that energy for what is actually real. This is not numbness. It is not emotional weakness. It is precision. And precision is power.
Why most confidence advice misses the point? Most confidence advice focuses on the outside: posture, tone of voice, eye contact, power poses. And these things are not useless, but they only treat the symptom, not the cause. You can stand up straight and still feel ready to fall apart the moment someone questions you. You can look calm on the outside while feeling completely unsettled on the inside. And that kind of confidence is exhausting. Even worse, people can often sense it. They may not know exactly what they are noticing, but they can feel the gap between the calm appearance and the storm underneath. Real, unshakable confidence works in the opposite direction. It does not begin with the body and hope the mind follows. It begins by reducing the number of things you allow to control you. Then the body relaxes naturally. When a rude comment no longer shakes you, you do not need to remind yourself to keep your shoulders back. They are already relaxed because there is no inner storm pulling them forward. Calm posture is not something you force. It becomes the natural result of a calm inner world, not a mask worn over chaos.
This is also why confidence built only on achievement is so fragile. If your sense of security depends on being the smartest person in the room, then meeting someone smarter can feel like a threat to your entire identity. If your sense of security depends on being liked, then one small moment of disapproval can ruin your whole day. But real security is different. It is built on your relationship with your own reactions. It comes from knowing that you can face almost any outcome without being pulled around by it. When that happens, external conditions begin to lose their power over you. You are no longer trying to control the world just so you can feel okay. You are already okay, and the world is simply doing what the world does.
Practicing the pause. If reactivity is a habit, then the solution is building a new habit. And new habits are created through repetition. In small, everyday moments, long before life presents truly difficult ones, trying to suddenly become unshakable during a major crisis without ever practicing beforehand is like trying to learn how to swim by jumping directly into dangerous waves. The practice itself is surprisingly simple, almost so simple that people often underestimate its power. But simple does not mean easy. It takes repetition. It takes consistency. And it takes awareness. When something happens that creates an emotional spike, irritation, embarrassment, anxiety, defensiveness, the goal is very simple. Notice the feeling without immediately reacting to it. Do not suppress it. Do not fight it. And do not overanalyze it. Simply notice what is happening inside you. Pause and recognize it. Something just changed inside my body. Very often, that simple act of noticing changes everything, because the urgency begins to fade. The emotion is still there, but now you are observing it instead of obeying it.
From there, one useful question is simple. Does this require anything from me right now? Most of the time, the honest answer is no. A slow text reply does not require an investigation to find out if you are being ignored. A cold email does not require a defensive reply, and it does not require you to search every word for a hidden insult. A missed flight does not require an inner trial to decide who is to blame. Most of these moments need only one practical next step. Rebook the flight. Send a normal follow-up message. Move on with the day. They do not need an emotional performance. Over time, this pause becomes shorter and more automatic. The same way braking at a stop sign eventually requires no conscious thought. You do not decide every time not to react. You simply begin to notice that the reaction never gained power in the first place. This is the real mechanism behind people who seem naturally unbothered. It is not a personality gift. It is thousands of small, repeated pauses, practiced again and again, until they finally become instinct.
The difference between non-reaction and suppression. It is important to be very clear here, because this idea can easily be misunderstood, and it can also be misused. Reacting to nothing does not mean becoming empty inside. It does not mean agreeing to everything. And it does not mean accepting mistreatment without ever speaking up. That is not non-reaction. That is suppression. Suppression means pushing feelings down, pretending you are fine when you are not fine, and never addressing real problems. But suppression does not make you unshakable. It creates pressure inside you, like a pressure cooker. People who suppress their feelings for too long do not become calm. They become unpredictable. Sometimes they explode over something small, not because that small thing was the real problem, but because it became the final straw on top of everything they never dealt with.
The unshakable person is not suppressing emotions. They are simply learning to discern. They have become very skilled at sorting the endless irritations of life into two categories: things that truly deserve a response and things that are simply noise. When something genuinely matters, a real betrayal, a real injustice, or a real threat to something important, the unshakable person responds, sometimes immediately, and sometimes with force. But the difference is simple. Their response comes from clarity. Their response comes from clarity, not from uncontrolled emotional reflex. They can feel anger without being controlled by anger. They can set boundaries without first needing permission from themselves. This distinction matters deeply, because the goal is not to care less about everything. The goal is to care accurately. Most of the things that disturb our peace each day do not deserve the weight we give them. But some things truly do matter. And treating everything with the same level of importance, or the same level of indifference, creates imbalance. The unshakable person is not emotionless. They are calibrated. They know exactly what deserves their energy, and what deserves none at all.
Why this skill builds real confidence. It is worth asking an important question. Why does this skill create confidence instead of simply creating calmness? Because confidence and calmness are not exactly the same thing. A person can appear calm and still feel timid inside, still avoid taking risks, still hesitate when opportunities appear. But non-reaction and confidence are deeply connected, for one very simple reason. Most of what stops people from taking action, speaking honestly, or going after what they truly want is fear of emotional consequences, either their own reaction or someone else's reaction. Think about how many important decisions are quietly stopped by fear. You do not say what you honestly think because you are afraid of how you will feel if things go badly. You do not apply for the opportunity because you are afraid of what rejection might feel like. And so, without realizing it, you allow fear of emotional discomfort to control your choices. But when you learn not to be controlled by your reactions, something powerful begins to change. You stop fearing the emotional aftermath. And that is where real confidence begins. You do not set boundaries because you are afraid of the other person's anger, and you are afraid of the guilt you expect to feel afterward. In most situations, what people are truly avoiding is not the event itself. It is the emotional storm they believe that event will create inside them. But once you train yourself to stop reacting automatically, once you truly trust that you can face rejection, embarrassment, conflict, or failure without losing your balance for days, something powerful begins to change. A huge part of fear simply disappears. You begin speaking honestly because you are no longer afraid of how you might feel afterward if things do not go well. You begin taking risks because failure no longer feels like disaster. It simply becomes information. And this is what unshakable confidence truly is. Not the absence of risk, not the absence of difficult outcomes, but the deep trust that no matter what happens, you can face any situation and remain completely composed. A practice, not a destination. It would be unrealistic to believe this is something you master once and never think about again. Even people who have practiced non-reaction for many years still get caught off guard sometimes. A sharp comment can still hurt. An unexpected loss can still shake them deeply. And sometimes the old emotional spiral begins again. But the difference is important. They have not become invulnerable. They simply recover much faster. And they no longer see a temporary loss of composure as a failure. In fact, the moments when you do react are not failures at all. They are part of the practice itself. When you snap at someone, when you overthink something small, or when you catch yourself replaying the same argument again and again, those moments are opportunities. Each time you notice an overreaction, you gain another chance to ask yourself one question. What triggered me? And did it truly deserve the weight I gave it? Becoming unshakable is not a permanent state. It is not a destination you reach and stay in forever. It is much more like physical fitness, something you maintain through constant practice, through small daily awareness, not something you win once and keep for life. And slowly, almost without noticing, something begins to change. Your baseline shifts. The threshold for what deserves your reaction becomes higher and higher, not because you have become numb, but because you have learned the difference between noise and what truly matters. Small things begin losing their power. The delayed reply, the careless comment, the small inconvenience. They pass through you, like wind moving through an open window, present for a moment, and then gone. And when truly difficult moments finally arrive, you find yourself steadier, clearer, and far more capable of responding with intention instead of panic. And this quiet steadiness is what people actually notice when they call someone confident. It is not loudness. It is not arrogance. It is not pretending to feel nothing. It is the visible proof that this person will not be easily shaken by life. They have accepted a powerful truth. Most things in life do not deserve a reaction. And by understanding that, they have quietly become very difficult to shake.
And that is today's lesson on the English Empire. Remember, every small step you take today builds the person you become tomorrow. Keep learning, keep growing. If this video helped you, please like it and share it with someone who needs it. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time. The next lesson is already waiting for you. I'll see you there.